Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen. So, where we left is that Napoleon had a vision to make for a Europe that was grand and ambitious, a unified continent under one empire with Paris as its capital. He saw himself as the architect of a new order where a single European code, currency, and set of laws could bind the people of Europe together. But his dream of a unified Europe was fraught with realities of national pride and resistance. In this episode, we'll explore the complexity of Napoleon's European ideals and the challenges he faced and the enduring legacy of his reign, which left a profound impact on Europe's political landscape. Napoleon, in his own contradictory way, saw himself as the man destined to elevate France to its greatest heights, while also believing he could unite all the peoples of Europe under a single empire. Today, we often think of the European ideals as something modern, but for Napoleon, it was a key part of his vision. In his speeches, the idea of a unified Europe was a constant theme. Before embarking on the Russian campaign, Napoleon confided to his Minister of the Interior and Police, saying, "My destiny has not yet been fulfilled. I must complete what has only been sketched. We need a European code, a European court of cassation, a single currency, uniform weights and measures, and the same laws. I must make all the peoples of Europe into one people, with Paris as the capital of the world." On St. Helena, Napoleon reflected on the European ideal he had failed to achieve. Europe would essentially have been a single people, and everyone traveling in any country would always have found themselves within a common homeland. But in this unified Europe, there would have been one dominant nation, the great nation, which would have been considered the elder brother to whom the other peoples would owe gratitude for the benefits they received. Though Napoleon often tried to downplay his Italian roots, he was keenly aware of his heritage. He was also the king of Italy and had created the kingdom of Italy, which enjoyed the advantages brought by France and was expected to show gratitude in return. Napoleon placed his stepson, Eugene de Beauharnais, as the viceroy of Italy, instructing him to be cautious. Italy is a proud, glorious kingdom, but it has an elder brother, or rather an elder sister, France. And woe to those who step out of line, he warned. Napoleon's message to Eugene was clear. Italy is independent only because of France. This independence is the price of its blood, of its victories, and Italy must not abuse it. Napoleon's vision of a unified European homeland with one dominant nation acting as the elder brother faced significant challenges. Many European countries, including Spain, Germany, and Russia, were hierarchical systems, while Napoleon's regime was often associated with new, fair laws, equality, and progress. The reality for many was that these ideals were enforced by the bayonets of a foreign army. Italy, however, was an exception. Despite the resentment and bitterness toward France's dominance, there was a strong sense of gratitude for what the French had brought, especially among the youth. This made Italy in many ways more loyal to Napoleon than any other countries. Unlike Spain, Russia, and Germany, there was no widespread war of liberation against the French in Italy. For many Italians, defeating Napoleon would have meant disaster. Of course, there were contradictions. Ugo Foscolo, an Italian writer and poet, captured the emotional complexity of the time in his novel Ultime Lettere di Jacopo Ortis. The character Jacopo Ortis commits suicide in despair after Napoleon betrays Venice by ceding it to Austria in the Treaty of Campo Formio in 1797. This act of betrayal deeply disillusioned both Jacopo and Foscolo, reflecting the sense of loss and frustration many Italians felt about their country's political fate. Foscolo's work, while a romantic tragedy, also serves as a political critique of the era, highlighting the pain of a generational longing for freedom and unity. Yet, despite this disillusionment, Foscolo's relationship with Napoleon was more complicated. A few years later, when Napoleon prepared to invade England, Foscolo, the author, enlisted as an officer in the Italian division of Napoleon's Grand Armée, stationed in Bologna. Perhaps the creation of the Kingdom of Italy, with Napoleon depicted as emperor and king, and the inscription Dio salvi l'Italia, God save Italy, on gold coins, played a role in his decision. Like many young Italians, Foscolo may have been drawn by the dream of glory, similar to Fabrizio del Dongo in Stendhal, the Charterhouse of Parma. Fabrizio del Dongo, the young protagonist in Stendhal's The Charterhouse of Parma of 1839, is an idealistic aristocrat who idolizes Napoleon Bonaparte. Against his family's wishes, he joined Napoleon's army and witnesses the chaos of the Battle of Waterloo, though his naive perspective highlights the absurdity and confusion of war. In many ways, Italians remained more loyal to Napoleon than other European nations. The French, on the other hand, quickly grew tired of him. After Napoleon's defeat in 1814, he was exiled to the island of Elba, and France seemed to easily adapt to the return of the monarchy. However, when Napoleon escaped from Elba and returned to France, the king, confident that a single regiment could arrest him, was proven wrong. The regiments laid down their arms and knelt before Napoleon, and the crowds enthusiastically welcomed him back. Hooray! Within days, Napoleon was back in Paris at the Tuileries, once again the Emperor of France, the Emperor of the French. During his brief return to power, known as the 100 Days, Napoleon focused on rebuilding his army to face the threat from the great European powers. He also sought peace, writing to the kings of Europe to assure that he wanted nothing more than maintain the borders established by the Congress of Vienna. None of these letters received a reply. Nobody took him seriously, or not even bothered to care. In addition to military preparations, Napoleon worked on drafting a new constitution, the Acte Additionnel, the Additional Act. The task of drafting Napoleon's new constitution was entrusted to Benjamin Constant, a well-known liberal intellectual. The irony here is striking. Just a month earlier, when Napoleon escaped from Elba, Constant had denounced him as a bandit in a newspaper article. Yet now he was leading the commission responsible for creating Napoleon's new constitution. This shift highlights the complex and rapidly changing political landscape of the time. The constitution itself was quite liberal, significantly expanding political rights and representation. For example, it introduced the free election of mayors in small municipalities, replacing the previous system where mayors were appointed by the Ministry of the Interior. This was a notable turning point in French governance. Despite its progressive elements, the constitution was approved by, once again, plebiscite, with 1.3 million votes in favor. However, over 5 million people abstained from voting. An interesting anecdote about the vote: the army voted regiment by regiment, with each regiment showing their approval by raising their hands. All regiments voted unanimously in favor of the new constitution, except one, the 1st Light Infantry Regiment. Its commander, Colonel Decubier, declared that he would vote against it because the constitution still gave too much power to the emperor and was not democratic enough. He encouraged his soldiers to vote against it, and as a result, the 1st Light Infantry was the only regiment in the entire army to vote almost unanimously against Napoleon's proposed constitution. Despite the dissent, Napoleon does not remove Colonel de Cubier from his position. You gotta respect him from that. A few weeks later, de Cubier is wounded at Waterloo while leading his regiment in an assault. This incident highlights the contradictions in Napoleon's character and the complex era he lived in, where it was difficult to know which side to take. At Waterloo, French officers fought to protect the gains of the revolution, while British and Allied officers fought to free the people from what they saw as a tyrant. Yet, even among Napoleon's enemies, his figure commanded respect and admiration. This complexity makes it impossible to offer a simple one-sided portrayal of who Napoleon really was. Napoleon's vision of a unified Europe was bold, ambitious, and deeply complex. His dream of a continent bound by common laws and single currency and shared ideals reflected a revolutionary spirit, but it was also mired in contradictions. His attempts to elevate France as the elder brother of Europe often clashed with the realities of national pride and resistance, leaving a legacy both admired and contested. As we leave chapter 7 behind and we reflect on the next one, the last chapter once again is going to be a bonus where Napoleon's health and his mysterious decline and the enduring debate surrounding his final days. His time on St. Helena marked the end of an era, a once mighty emperor reduced to isolation, grappling with illness and loss and the shadow of his own legacy. It's a chapter steeped in both tragedy and intrigue, as historians continue to piece together the final puzzle of his life. So we're going to find out later about how Napoleon died ultimately. So thank you very much for following up once again, ladies and gents, and I'll see you next time for our episode 8, and that will be our bonus episode. Thank you very much. Bye.